أرك وكأس من معين لا يصدعون عنها ولا ينزفون وفاكهة مما يتخيرون ولحم طير مما يشتهون وحور عين كامثال لؤلؤ المكنون جزاء بما كانوا يعملون لا يسمعون فيها لغوا ولا تأثيما إلا قيلا سلاما سلاما وأصحاب اليمين ما أصحاب اليمين في سدر مخضود وطلح منضود وظل ممدود وماء مسكوب وفاكهة كثيرة لا مقطوعة ولا ممنوعة وفرش مرفوعة إنا أنشأناهن إنشاء فجعلناهن أبكارا عربا أترابا لأصحاب اليمين ثلة من الأولين وثلة من الآخرين وأصحاب الشمال ما أصحاب الشمال في سموم وحميم وذل من يحموم لا بارد ولا كريم إنهم كانوا قبل ذلك مترفين وكانوا يصرون على الحنث العظيم وكانوا يقولون إذا متنا وكنا ترابا وعظاما أئنا لمبعوثون أو آباؤنا الأولون قل إن الأولين والآخرين لمجموعون إلى ميقات يوم معلوم ثم إنكم أيها الضالون المكذبون لآكلون من شجر من زقوم فمالئون منها البطون فشاربون عليه من الحميم فشاربون شرب الحيم هذا نزلهم يوم الدين نحن خلقناكم فلولا تصدقون أفرأيتم ما تمنون أأنتم تخلقونه أم نحن الخالقون نحن قدرنا بينكم الموت وما نحن بمسبوقين على أن نبدل أمثالكم وننشئكم فيما لا تعلمون ولقد علمتم النشأة الأولى فلولا تذكرون أفرأيتم ما تحرثون أأنتم تزرعونه أم نحن الزارعون لو نشاء لجعلناه أطاما فظلتم تفكهون إن لمغرمون بل نحن محرومون أفرأيتم الماء الذي تشربون أأنتم تزرعونه أم نحن أأنتم أنزلتموه من المزن أم نحن المنزلون لو نشاء لجعلناه أجاجا فلولا تشكرون أفرأيتم النار التي تؤرون أأنتم أنشأتم شجرتها أم نحن المنشئون نحن جعلناها تذكرة ومتاعا للمقوين فسبح باسم ربك العظيم فلا أقسم بمواقع النجوم وإنه لقسم لو تعلمون عظيم إنه لقرآن كريم في كتاب مكنون لا يمسه إلا المطهرون تنزيل من رب العالمين أفبهذا الحديث أنتم مدهنون وتجعلون رزقكم أنكم تكذبون فلولا إذا بلغت الحلقوم وأنتم حينئذ تنظرون ونحن أقرب إليه منكم ولكن لا تبصرون فلولا إن كنتم غير مدينين ترجعونها إن كنتم صادقين فأما إن كان من المقربين فروح وريحان وجنة النعيم وأما إن كان من أصحاب اليمين فسلام لك من أصحاب اليمين وأما إن كان من المكذبين الضالين فنزل من حميم وتسلية جحيم إن هذا لهو الحق اليقين فسبح باسم ربك العظيم صدق الله العلي العظيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد سورة المباركة الفاتحة
محمد وآل محمد صلوات لا رہا ہوں میں لاشائے اکبر، ام لیلا سنبھال زینب کو، لا رہا ہوں میں لاشائے اکبر، ام لیلا سنبھال زینب کو، بولے ہوں گے حسین یہ رو کر، ام لیلا سنبھال زینب کو، نوجوان لاش ہے ضعیفی ہے، میری نظروں سے دیکھ منظر کو، کیسے ہم شیر کو سنبھالوں گا، میں سنبھالے ہوئے ہو اکبر کو، تیرا احسان ہوگا یہ مجھ پر، ام لیلا سنبھال زینب کو، اس کے سینے سے لے کے نام علی میں نے برچی ابھی نکالی ہے، امتحان دے چکی میری غربت، اب تیری بے کسی کی باری ہے، تو بھی اس وقت یا علی کہہ کر ام لیلا سنبھال زینب کو، دو نگینے تھے اس کی جھولی میں، دونوں اکبر پہ کر دیے صدقہ، صبر ایسا کہ اپنے بیٹوں پر میں نے روتے اسے نہیں دیکھا ہے، مگر اب یہ لاشائے اکبر، ام لیلا سنبھال زینب کو، کیسے لاشیں جواں اٹھائے ہو، ایریا خط بناتی آتی ہے، ان نشانوں کو پیچھے پیچھے میرے زہرا مٹاتی آتی ہے، اسی کی نظریں نہ دیکھے یہ منظر، ام لیلا سنبھال زینب کو، لا رہا ہوں میں لاشائے اکبر، ام لیلا سنبھال زینب کو، بولے ہوں گے حسین یہ رو کر، ام لیلا سنبھال زینب کو۔ پر محمد و آل محمد صلوات۔ الفاتحہ۔
اعوذ باللہ من الشیطان اللعین الرجیم، بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم، فوضوا امری الی اللہ ان اللہ بصیر بالعباد، ولا حول ولا قوة الا باللہ العلی العظیم، حسبنا اللہ ونعم الوکیل ونعم المولا ونعم النصیر، والصلاة والسلام والتحیة والاکرام علی الرسول المسدد المصطفى الامجد المحمود الاحمد الذي سمي في السماء بأحمد وفي الأرض بأبي القاسم محمد، اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين المنتجبين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا، اللهم صل على محمد وعلى وقل رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. اما بعد، قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتاب الكريم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، هل جزاء الإحسان إلا الإحسان، صدق الله العلي العظيم. زينوا مجالسكم بالصلوات على محمد وآل محمد، اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. My respected elders, brothers and sisters in Iman, Salamun alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How does one get through difficult times and adversities? Keep that question in the back of your mind. We'll return to it. For any movement in life, for any foundational move in society, the founding of an organization, the founding of a society, the founding of a community, indeed the founding of a country, there are certain individuals and certain criteria that must be met. There must be certain individuals who help towards that goal and help achieve that goal. There must be somebody, for example, who charts out the vision about where it is that we're going. Where is our ultimate end goal? This could be someone who's a visionary. This could be someone who's a writer, a poet. It could be someone of a varying background. And at the same time, you need someone who is actually going to finance this endeavor. You need someone who makes sure that the finance is in place in order to make sure that the dream is realized. And then you'll also need someone or a category of people who actually execute on the vision to make sure that that vision is not only financed, it's not only realized, but it's actually executed, and in that execution, there is also the realization of that dream and that vision. This is not much different than the founding of a country, for example. When one comes to the United States or any other nation, there were certain people who charted out the vision. And there were certain people who executed and made sure that that vision was realized. There was others who financed it. Someone may come forward and say the founding fathers, for example, who charted a vision and made sure that there were people in place to execute that vision. There were people who financed, for example. Some may say it was France, or some may say it was Solomon and others who made sure that the financing was in place for the United States to exist. The same would be true, for example, for a community. For example, our community here in Orlando. There was someone who perhaps charted out the vision. There was someone who made sure that there were things in place to make sure that finance was in place. There were individuals in place to make sure that people came to the forefront to make that vision a reality. And the same was true with Islam. There was someone who charted the vision. That vision was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but it manifested itself through Rasulullah A'zam, the Holy Prophet, who charted out that vision and showed the vision to the people. There were others such as the lady Khadija, the mother of the Lady of Light, who made sure that finance was in place to make sure that this vision could be realized. And there was the likes of Abu Talib, the father of Amir al-Mu'mineen, who came forward and made sure that there was an environment where the Holy Prophet could execute on his vision and make sure that that vision was realized. When we come to Islam and the foundations of Islam, one cannot at any moment neglect the efforts of a man like Abu Talib. Abu Talib, who the Muslim world and the world at large should recognize and must recognize his contribution to this great movement of Islam. Abu Talib, that individual who Rasulullah himself says is that person who was the shield who had protected him in the most difficult of times from the Quraysh and others who opposed him in Mecca, especially. And Rasulullah himself said after Abu Talib's passing, it was as if that shield had been removed and the arrows of the enemy had geared towards him at the highest level. Tonight I want to look at what lessons can we derive from the life of Abu Talib. A person like Abu Talib, who supported Rasulullah through thick and thin, who believed in his vision, who helped to realize and achieve his vision, and not only that, left supporters behind to make sure that the vision is truly realized. I want to look at what was the belief and determination of Abu Talib and how did it manifest itself. I want to look at what was the opposition that Abu Talib faced and in turn Rasulullah faced, and how did he overcome that. What were those helpers that Abu Talib put in place and made sure were there not only during his own time, but after his death and martyrdom, and further beyond that, even generations down the line. And how is it that we, you and I, can derive lessons from the life of Abu Talib to implement in our life and these tragedies and these difficulties that we are going through, specifically in this moment of the coronavirus and this pandemic around the globe. This is our schedule for tonight, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali. When we look at a movement, many people who have studied psychology, philosophy, they've studied the classical texts, they've studied mythology. Many of you and many of us, when we went through school, we were told to study literature. And when one asks at that point in time, why study literature? The idea was that these books, whether it was Shakespeare or in modern time Dostoevsky and other writers, these people, they actually shed a light on human nature. That is before modern psychology, before modern philosophy and many of these things. These writers were capturing human nature in their writings. This is what the world understood. I say this because there's a very popular and a very famous book by a very famous writer by the name of Joseph Campbell. And this was a writer who wrote numerous texts, but his most famous arguably is The Hero's Journey. And this is a book that is read and recommended by many, many people. In fact, celebrities, the famous people of our world, they recommend this book. Why do I mention this to you and our audience tonight? Mr. Campbell in his research, and Professor Campbell in his research, found that there are certain elements of the journey of a hero. And one of those elements and the pivotal moment of the life of a hero, and this is a book that is recommended by the likes of Ray Dalio, one of the most successful hedge fund managers in the history of the world, who managed money for China, and also the likes of Kobe Bryant, who was lost earlier this year. And they said there's something in this book that is about human nature that relates to every individual on the planet. What is that? That there's a moment that one goes through which is called the abyss, the lowest point of life. And this lowest moment of life, someone has a decision at this moment of life, which is the lowest moment of life. They can either stay here and stay at that lowest moment, or they can rise through the lessons that they've learned and rise to a level that human beings have never seen before. That is where they become the hero, so to speak. I say this with respect to Islam, and I say this with respect to you and I living in a time such as this. Why? Because you and I still go through difficulties. You and I will go through challenges, such as the challenge that we're facing today. But to get through it, you must have the vision, and we must have the vision to see beyond the horizon of the difficulty, to see that vision of hope and a vision of a new tomorrow and a new vision of a new world. How does that relate to you and I? Perhaps through this introspection of the difficulty we're facing globally, we can say maybe life is not fair, and maybe we can do our part to make life fair. We'll come to that in a few moments. With respect to Islam and with respect to the role of Abu Talib, this was that person. It's unfortunate that history, we've spent time debating whether he was Muslim or not, because some Muslims have come forward and said it's debatable, or they say he did not, it's not clear. It's very clear from our perspective. I think it's more important to focus on Abu Talib, who was definitely a Muslim, but focus on his contribution of Islam. This individual was the protector of Rasulullah in the most difficult of times. We're told that those people who come forward, who were the biggest opponents and opposition, people had no problem calling them Muslims later. But Abu Talib, who supported through thick and thin, people have a problem with. I don't understand this. We're told there's a moment in time with respect to Rasulullah in his early days of tabligh. When he's doing tabligh in the early days of Islam, the Meccans used to cause many problems for Rasulullah. One day, we're told, at that moment in time, Abu Jahl throws a stone towards Rasulullah. This Abu Jahl, who was the most difficult, ardent opponent of Rasulullah, he threw the intestines of a goat on Rasulullah. When he's praying, this same one throws a stone towards Rasulullah. Rasulullah begins to bleed. When Rasulullah begins to bleed, after some time, when he goes away to recover and recuperate, Hamza, his uncle, is passing by. When Hamza is passing by, the brother of Abu Talib, the brother of Abdullah, the father of Rasulullah, when he's passing by, he says, "My nephew, what happened? Why are you bleeding? What's wrong?" He says, "My uncle, this is the work of Abu Jahl," who, by the way, was known as a big intellectual amongst his people. Rasulullah said, Allah deems him to be Abu Jahl. He is the father of the ignorant ones. He's not an intellectual. Many people who wear intellectual garb, we think we get swayed by a few words. This person, the people would think he's Einstein of Mecca and the Quraysh. But Rasulullah said, don't get swayed by his words. He's someone who's an ignorant person. Nonetheless, how else can someone act in a way with Rasulullah like this? Nonetheless, Hamza said, "My nephew, what happened?" He says, "He threw a stone, I began to bleed." He says, "This is the work of Abu Jahl." He says, "Very well." Hamza goes straight towards Abu Jahl. Hamza had a certain disposition, and he had a certain strength, and he had a certain honor. He was the courageous warrior. In fact, they called him Hamza the lion. He was the lion of Allah before. They mentioned even Amir al-Mu'minin Abu Fadl. Nonetheless, he comes towards Abu Jahl. He takes his bow from his bow and arrow, and he strikes Abu Jahl in his ribs. He breaks the ribs of Abu Jahl. When he does this, Abu Jahl begins to plead, and he leaves him alone. After that time, Hamza comes back to Rasulullah. He says, "My nephew, I have taken care of Abu Jahl. He won't bother you. He won't trouble you anymore." So what did you do? He said, "I broke his ribs with my bow." He says at that point, he says, "My uncle," he gives a statement. He says, "My uncle Hamza, if you want to help me and assist me, it would be a greater assistance if you accept the message of Islam." At that time, Hamza accepted Islam. Hazrat Hamza, the uncle of Rasulullah, accepts Islam. But I ask historians, did he stop and pause and say, "My nephew Muhammad, I have helped you for the first time with respect to this issue, and I have helped you and taken care of your enemy," and right away you say, "If I do something, this would be a greater help"? What? "If I accept your message and I accept Islam, the message of God, I will do a better service for you"? Why don't you go and tell my brother, your uncle Abu Talib, to become a Muslim? He's closer in support to you. He didn't do that. That indicates it very clearly that Hamza himself knew that Abu Talib was a Muslim at that point in time. But historians glance over this. The first proof and the first evidence of Abu Talib's support, that Hamza at that moment is not saying that tell your uncle, tell Abu Talib, why not? Because he knows he's already a Muslim. This is the first element of the discussion. But after that, as time progressed, when the actual moment of giving the da'wah, of giving the invitation towards Islam, the person who was at the forefront of this message was Abu Talib himself. How? Rasulullah said that I must make this announcement and do the call and the proclamation after he makes the announcement at the age of 40 to invite the family. When he says, I must first invite my near ones, وَأَنذِرْ عَشِيرَتَكَ الْأَقْرَبِينَ, first invite the near ones, then the others. He says, I must call the family. He tells Abu Talib, he tells his uncle, he says, my uncle, I must invite the near ones, the relatives, the close ones, and invite them and give them the message of Islam. And from then we can expand forward. Abu Talib says, no more, say no more, I will take care of it. Abu Talib makes the arrangement for the food. And he makes arrangements for all of the people to be invited and to come. Now, in terms of these people, these were the people who were the chieftains of Mecca. These were the people who had the biggest appetites and the biggest egos. The people were all invited. And the preparation was one, according to the tradition, one leg of lamb. At that point in time, when there was one leg of lamb that was presented, Abu Lahab says, you're going to present all of this for all of us? I mean, one of us eats one entire goat, or one entire sheep, one entire lamb. And you expect that all of us are going to share? He says, my nephew Muhammad has blessed this. You will eat as much as you want to eat. Don't stop. This food is blessed by Muhammad. And he had that much trust. And they say, the historians write, that they began to eat and they began to eat. And you know, sometimes when you want to prove someone wrong and you want to go out of your way to disprove what they're going to say, you try to go out of your way. So they also brought their full appetites. And they tried to eat as much and as much and as much as they could. But by the miracle of prophethood and the miracle of the yaqeen of Abu Talib and the certainty of Abu Talib, they ate and they ate and they ate up until the point that they were filled and they couldn't eat anymore. And the food did not diminish. At that point in time, when Rasulullah had seen that they had eaten and they had been served appropriately, he rose and he began to speak. As soon as Rasulullah began to speak to invite the people at that point in time, he began to say the message. He said that whoever supports me in my mission, they will be my successor, my heir, my wasi afterwards. At that point in time, Abu Lahab stood up and he began to say that magic, hasha lillah, has taken over my nephew. Let's get up and go. He swayed the audience and they began to leave. As they began to leave, Rasulullah and Abu Talib had a dialogue. The dialogue and the discussion between the two was that Abu Talib heard from his nephew Muhammad. He says, Rasulullah says, my uncle, I was going to just give them the word and I was about to say when Abu Lahab took this whole audience and they're about to leave. He says, my nephew, don't worry. We'll have another one. If you tell me, we'll have another gathering tomorrow, the next day, no problem. I'll make the same arrangements, you have nothing to worry about. At that point in time, when he said this, the next day, Abu Talib made the arrangements for the same event. Abu Lahab comes again. He says, you are going to feed us with this? He said, do you see all of us? He said, don't you remember what happened yesterday? He said, very well. They said, this time we're going to win. And when they tried, they couldn't. Their appetites failed them. The miracle of Rasulullah came further. Nonetheless, Rasulullah got up again the second day to tell them that whoever supports this mission, I invite you to say, La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, that there is no God but God, and that I am His messenger. And he began to say that whoever supports me afterwards, whoever supports me in this message will be my successor, my wasi afterwards. Amir al-Mu'mineen was the only one who was standing up at a young 10-year age. The first day, the second day, third day. Abu Lahab again, he took the crowd with him. He says he's been overcome by magic. Let's go. At that point in time, third day, same thing. Abu Talib makes arrangements. The food is there. The same thing happens. They cannot belie what happened. At that point in time, Rasulullah says, today is the day I want to let you all know that I have come with the glad tidings of Islam. And he gives the message and says, whoever supports me will be my wasi afterward. No one stood up. No one supported. It was only Amir al-Mu'mineen at that point who made sure that he had full support, and he gave full support at that point in time. And Abu Talib, who made the arrangements. This was the position of Abu Talib in having absolute trust. But where did this trust develop from? We sometimes think this trust developed very, very late. No, this trust was from the very beginning. The trust was not only in Rasulullah, because that was family. The trust was in others as well. How? We're told in Islamic history, there was a moment in time where Khadija, who was one of the wealthiest women in all of Arabia, in fact, one of the wealthiest people in all of Arabia, she was having her caravans looted by the Meccans. They began to loot her caravans and steal. When they were looting, she said, who do I go to in order to get justice? Who is an honorable person who has dignity and respect amongst the people? Who is this? At that point in time, she said, there's none other than Abu Talib. She went and had a message sent to Abu Talib that, Abu Talib, you have respect and honor and dignity amongst the people, and you're honest and trustworthy, and you're a reliable person. Your family has been in charge of giving water to the pilgrims. They have the keys to the Kaaba. They are the most honorable people, and you're the best amongst them. I have a problem. People are stealing and looting from my caravans, and it's causing great business losses for me. Can you speak to them? Abu Talib says, he says to the messenger, rest assured, I will take care of it. He invites the people. He invites the Meccans to his house. Representatives come to the house. He says, and look at the way and the adab and the akhlaq to get the message across, number one, and at the same time get people's buy-in. How did he do this? Whenever you have a project, you need someone called a project champion. Look at how Abu Talib is the champion for what will become Islam and the movement, the trust for it. How? He says that there are people who are stealing from the caravans of the great lady Khadija. And they are the people of Mecca, I've been informed. And you are the people of Mecca. I don't know who it is here. I'm not saying anyone, I'm not making any allegations. But I know that you have enough scope to be able to get the message to the people who need to hear it. At that point in time, they began to say, look, it's Mecca. We live in Mecca. There's no business, there's no natural resources here. There's no business here. I'm sure people are doing this because they have to make ends meet. And if they aren't able to do this, then what do you suggest, Abu Talib? What do you suggest is a solution? At that point in time, Abu Talib, the wisdom of Abu Talib, he comes forward and he says, very well, do this. Each of you go home and see what you have at home. If you have a goat, bring a goat. If you have a sheep, bring a sheep. If you have anything of value, bring it. They trusted Abu Talib, they went, they saw what, they said, but wait, before they went, they said, hold on, what's the benefit to us? He said, if you bring it, trust me, this lady, Khadija, is such that if you give her one thing, she will double it, and you will benefit from it. For us, in our terms, it would be like investing and get double return. Very well. At that point in time, when all of this wealth or things are brought of value towards Abu Talib, the next day, Abu Talib says, very well, I take aman of this, I take trust of this, and I will get this back to you. At this point in time, when he goes forward, we're told, according to the historians, Abu Talib tells the messenger of Lady Khadija that I have ascertained your property. These things, I told the people, go and get from your house those valuables and those things. But, he says, I know your generosity and I know your benevolence. This is definitely your things. But in order to keep the harmony amongst the people, I request that when you benefit from your business and this trade, you give something back to these people. And verily, of course, Lady Khadija took care of this. This is the trust that was established at that early time. No, Rasulullah, that trust between Lady Khadija, Abu Talib and Rasulullah was of the highest. Because Rasulullah would go and trade caravans with Abu Talib. And it was at that time that Maysara, the person who had been appointed by Lady Khadija to see and find suitable person, Maysara says, there is no one more honorable and more honest than Muhammad. The vision, according to what historians say about what Rasulullah had charted out, this is why Michael H. Hart in his book, although he criticized Islam, his book 100, the most influential people in history, although he criticized Islam, he still said, I cannot do anything except put Muhammad at the top. Why? Because he changed the chart, the path, the course of Arabs in a period of only 23 years where they were able to conquer the world. Nobody has done something like this. How did Rasulullah do something so seemingly impossible? How did he make it possible? You know, things that we perceive to be impossible many times are possible. In fact, someone may argue that everything is impossible until it becomes possible. What do I mean? Not too long ago, there was a moment in time in history where people, for example, people thought that doing 1 mile under 4 minutes was impossible. Well, it was perceived as an impossibility. Roger Bannister breaks the record. That same year, several other people do it. This is one of the examples of those blockades that are in the mind only. Rasulullah said, we have to go much further than this. And he showed people a vision of how to achieve that. The philosopher king, as Plato would call him. But he had absolute trust. And the people who were with him had absolute trust. Why do I say this? Because when the Meccans put economic sanctions on the Muslims and forced them to be in Shabbir Abi Talib, the most difficult circumstances, how did they get through it? How did they survive through it? I draw an analogy between that and you and I today. We're going through a difficult time. Now, granted, that was even more difficult because those systems and resources may not have been there. Those circumstances were dire, but I want you to realize that despite those challenges, despite those difficulties, which difficulties? Where there were times where there was so little food that they would eat plants and the color of the skins would become of a greenish hue. Times where there was no food, they would all eat or share and suck the skin of a sheep. That's how difficult. Further, times that were so difficult where people who were in Shabbir Abi Talib had to share the remnants of a date seed to see if there were any residue left of the date on the seed. That's what difficult times they went through. But they still went through it with hope. Hope of what? Hope that on the other side of this difficulty, that Allah Himself says that verily with every difficulty there is ease. Inna ma'al usri yusra. That even with every difficulty there is ease. And sometimes people say after, no, with. This is what's very important. The Quran says not after, with every difficulty is ease. There's always a silver lining. You and I have to identify that silver lining. Why? Some of the most people who have the most resources in our world. I'm giving a message for all of those who may be watching around the world about how to have peace and tranquility even in this difficult time. How? Gratitude. Numerous research has been done on gratefulness and gratitude, not only by the common individuals, by people who have the most resources in our world. I'll give you the example, and I've given the example in the past of Sheryl Sandberg, a billionaire who was second in charge at Facebook. When she lost her husband, society, she went to the top psychologist. They said, what can we do? They said, the best thing you can do is gratefulness, gratitude. How? I lost someone, I lost my husband, how can I be grateful? They said the best thing that you can do is be grateful and think that you had so many good years with your husband. Kobe Bryant passed away earlier this year. Who doesn't know? His family, his wife, his children, it's very difficult. I say this because these individuals share in our human element. All of humanity is suffering today. It's not just one religion or one sect or one geography. The world needs help. And the first thing that psychologists and assistants and friends came forward and said to the family of this athlete who was grieving was to be grateful. Grateful for what? Grateful for those years you had together. Grateful for even the 12 years that you had with your daughter, for example. I invite each individual who is suffering at this time, who's worried, who's concerned, to be grateful for those things and at the same time take the precautions that are necessary. Follow what institutions and organizations are saying, but never lose hope. Because hope is what gets us through the storm. And believe me, I hope and I hope humanity is introspective through this difficult time. How introspective? How do we stop and think that maybe I have the ability, living in the United States in a developed economy, that I have access to hand sanitizer and soap and other resources and maybe even food. But maybe there's other people around the world who don't have access to this. How can we, after this difficulty, and start thinking about today, how can we make a more equitable world? a more egalitarian world, a more fair world, a world where each individual is taken care of and they're not worried and concerned about how will I eat today. You know, in the United States we're blessed where even there's a conversation about giving enough food and enough, at least some income. There's a conversation about it. Has it happened yet? I don't know yet. But there's a conversation to give aid to each American. Can you imagine that in a country like India, as an example, or certain places in Africa or other parts of the world? You know, I just returned from India not too long ago, only a few weeks. The level of abject poverty that I saw there, you and I cannot fathom. These people don't have enough to eat. They don't have many times enough to even wear in certain remote locations. What kind of world do you and I live in? That I'm only concerned perhaps by myself? Rasulullah says that one who wakes up in the morning and is not concerned with the affairs of Muslims globally, فَلَيْسَ بِمُسْلِم, that's not a Muslim. Forget that. You may say this is just for Islam. I'm giving you another one. Rasulullah says that the concept of a neighbor in Islam is not just right and left of you. No, 40 houses east, west, north, south. Anyone goes to sleep hungry, I'm liable on the Day of Judgment. Doesn't matter if they're Muslim, non-Muslim, doesn't matter. What lesson will you and I derive from this difficult circumstance? Gratitude and kindness and generosity. These things what will help you weather the storm. Not only outside your walls, while you are in your homes. How? Look at your spouse. Look at your children. Children, look at your parents. Look at the ones, your loved ones in the house. Don't find things to nitpick. Don't find things that are problematic. Find those blessed moments and treasure the moments you have together. You know what the biggest regret people have on their deathbed is? The biggest regret that people have on their deathbed is I didn't spend enough time with my family. Today, perhaps the silver lining in the circumstances, maybe with a safe distance, you are able to spend time with your family and your relatives and your loved ones. Don't lose that opportunity. How many people in my travels I've met in Europe, in Asia, in America, in North America, I've met who tell me that I wish I had more time for my family. Life is right now, at this present moment. It's not to be lived in some future moment. How many people, Islam tells us, how many people had plans? The Ahlul Bayt tell us how many people woke up this morning, they had plans for this evening. They didn't make it to this evening. They lost their lives. Be mindful of that. This was Abu Talib who got not only himself, not only his family, he got Islam through its most difficult era and time. You and I, inshallah, bi'iznillah, will also weather the storm. But weathering the storm, not just for myself and yourself, weather the storm for humanity. To come out and say, well, if I'm okay, what about others? Is there humanity on this planet? Are other people taken care of or not? Abu Sufyan was the person who was the biggest opponent. Abu Talib still made sure that he supported Rasulullah in that difficult time. How? There was a moment in time where the people began to pelt Rasulullah with stone. Abu Sufyan told the children of Mecca, throw stones on Muhammad at that time. Abu Talib was a chieftain, he was older. When Rasulullah came back, and Abu Talib saw his nephew filled with blood, he said, what happened? He said, the children began to pelt me with stones. The same way when he used to go to Taif for tabligh, that would happen. The children of Mecca pelted him with stones. Abu Talib said that I will take care of it. Abu Talib, he went and saw all the chieftains and lined up all the chieftains of Mecca and Quraysh, and he says, you have instructed the children to pelt my nephew with stones. I order you to stop this now. Otherwise you'll have to deal with me. The father of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Ali, the father of Ali, Abu Talib himself is saying this. Imagine. Abu Sufyan in his arrogance, he looks towards him, he says, the children did it, right? He says, it's a children's matter, let it be amongst the children. Because Rasulullah, although he was older, he was still the nephew, and they saw nephews as children in front of Abu Talib. Very well. He says, is this your statement? He says, very well. I also have a child in my home. At that point in time, Abu Talib goes home. When Abu Talib goes home, he says, Ali, come here. He calls his son. He says, Ali, from this moment I am appointing you. From previous nights, every night I've been switching you out of the bed of Muhammad so that no one attacks Muhammad and your life is taken. That's in the night time that I swap the beds to make sure that Muhammad is safe. Now in the daytime, Ali, I am entrusting you with the safety of Muhammad. From that day when Rasulullah went out, those same children the next day had lined up with stones and pebbles in their hand. They began to throw it towards Rasulullah. But this day was different because Ali ibn Abi Talib was there. Ali, whenever he would see a child, whoever's child, he would grab the stone, remove it from away from Rasulullah. He would take someone's hand and twist it. He would break someone else's hand in that process. Those children, those same ones who were throwing stones at Rasulullah didn't respond. All of them came back injured and fractured. They went towards the leaders of Quraysh. When they went towards the leaders of Quraysh, they began to cry and wail. At that point in time, the Quraysh leaders now called Abu Talib. When they called Abu Talib, they said, Abu Talib, your son Ali, what has he done to our children? He has fractured and broken their ribs, and he has broken their hands and their wrists. At that point in time, Abu Talib looks right back in them. He says that Ali did it to your children? He said, yes. It's a children's matter. Let it be amongst the children. That if you want to respond that my Muhammad will not be protected, I also have someone to defend him. You said it was a children's matter? This is also a children's matter. Let it be. Abu Talib at every moment was defending Islam to make sure that he was protected at every moment in time of Rasulullah. But he made these preparations not only in his life, but also afterwards. He kept Ali in place to protect the Holy Prophet. This was Abu Talib. That how many people have come forward and says, Abu Sufyan, the person who was the biggest opponent at every moment in time. He's the one who caused the children. And not only while he was alive, Abu Sufyan, afterwards his children, Muawiyah, Yazid, the Umayyad dynasty continues, begins from Abu Sufyan, from Umayyah, through and through. They have been enemies of Islam. Abu Sufyan is Muslim according to Muslims. But Abu Talib, who gives not only his life, he gives Ali, and he gives Hassan, and he gives Husseini, a whole lineage afterwards to support Islam. According to Muslims, he is a kafir. Hasha lillah, la ilaha illallah. What has happened to the Muslim world? What has happened to the minds? What do they say? They say when Rasulullah is on the deathbed, when Abu Talib is on his deathbed, and Rasulullah tells him, my uncle, accept Islam. He says something in his ear. And historians say he didn't accept Islam. You heard what he said in the ear? You heard what Abu Talib said to Rasulullah? But you don't remember Ghadir, when Rasulullah is lifting Amir al-Mu'minin, says, Man kuntu mawla, fahaza aliyun mawla. What has happened to historians? What has happened to history? What has happened to Islam? What has happened to the integrity of the belief of Islam? Abu Sufyan is Muslim, Abu Talib is not. If Abu Sufyan is considered a Muslim, and according to you that Abu Talib is considered a kafir, I would much rather be the kafir of Abu Talib than the Muslim of Abu Sufyan. Because Abu Talib's actions dictate that he was a Muslim. He gave everything he had for Islam. In fact, he gave his life for Islam, dying in Shabbir Abi Talib. In Shabbir Abi Talib, we're told that those difficulties, not having enough food to eat, that energy that Abu Talib had, he began to get frail. He ate the plants and the leaves in order to survive. At that moment in time, we're told that when the final moments of Abu Talib emerge, Rasulullah, he takes the head of Abu Talib in his lap, and he begins to kiss the forehead of Abu Talib. He says, my uncle, you supported me in every difficulty, and in every calamity, and every difficult position, and I am here for you, and I am not able to give you much, but know that I have my love for you. Rasulullah is having a conversation, he's giving his love and his affection. But I want to remind the world, what did Abu Talib do? Not only did he help Rasulullah while he was alive, he left such a lineage that Karbala occurred and happened because of the fruits of the labor of Abu Talib. How? That if you go back to the Shuhada, you go back to the families, you will find that there is Aliun al-Akbar, who was just mentioned in the Marsiya, Aliun al-Akbar, Ibn al-Hussein, Ibn Ali, Ibn Abi Talib. There is Ali al-Asghar, Tayyar ibn al-Hussein ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib. There is Hussein ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib. And you go further, there is Muslim, the ambassador, and according to the scholars, the first Shaheed, although he was not in Karbala. There is Muslim ibn Aqil ibn Abi Talib. And then there is Aoun and Muhammad ibn Abdullah ibn Ja'far al-Tayyar ibn Abi Talib. These people sacrificed their life. It is as if Karbala was in the vision of Abu Talib and he made preparations. But Abu Talib, I ask you two questions. One, when you were in your final moments, you had the head and you had the lap of Rasulullah, and you are older. The traditions and the customs of the world is that the elders die before the youngsters. What happened in Karbala? There is a moment where there is a father and there is a son, Ali al-Akbar. The head of Ali Akbar is in the lap of Imam al-Hussein, and he is crying in a way that he has never cried. Abu Talib, what went through your heart? But Abu Talib, my second question, there was a moment where Hussein was alone in his final moments. Whose lap was his head in? The historians say Shimr bin Dil-Jawshan sat on the chest of Hussein ibn Ali. 13 times he struck the throat which Rasulullah used to kiss. Abu Talib, where were you in this moment? ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. Ya Allah, by the wasila of Abu Talib, grant anyone who has a hajjah here who's watching around the world their hajjah in this night. Abu Talib is that individual when Rasulullah he says that when Rasulullah, when he was a youth, he says that my uncle Abu Talib, there was a drought in Medina and Mecca. When there was a drought in Mecca, that dua, the people were asking for prayers, they didn't know who to turn to. My uncle Abu Talib raised me, Muhammad, to the sky and prayed by my dua. He did dua by my wasila, and Allah granted it. Ya Allah, by Rasul al-Azam and by Abu Talib, who had this trust in Rasul al-Azam, grant all of those who have a hajjah their hajjah in this night. Anyone who is going through difficulty, Ya Allah, anyone who is in difficulty in terms of their health, grant them health in this night through Abu Talib and through Rasulullah. Ya Allah, anyone who is having a financial difficulty, the markets are down, the people's jobs are down, incomes are down, people are struggling. I'm receiving messages, Ya Allah, by Lady Khadija and her giving all her wealth for Islam. Help all of those people who are struggling financially in this time. Ya Allah, help all of those who are in difficulties. Ya Allah, allow us to learn from the mission and the determination of Lady Khadija and Abu Talib and take from that in our lives to have hope and to struggle and determine and to leave us offspring who will support the mission and the message the way Abu Talib and his family did. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. سورة مباركة الفاتحة. يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين معتم حسين.
मेरी बीबी मेरी बीबी तेरे दर पे इस्तिग़ासा है तेरा ममनून मेरी शहज़ादी जहाँ सारा है या ज़ाहरा या ज़ाहरा या ज़ाहरा या ज़ाहरा तू हमें हिफ्ज़ और अमा दे दे अपनी चादर का साइबा दे दे तेरी कुदरत में क्या नहीं बीबी तुझसे चाहे दो जहां दे दे या ज़ाहरा یا زہرا یا زہرا یا زہرا تیرا دربار وہ سخی در ہے ہر فرشتہ جہاں گداگر ہے تیرے مکروز آسماں والے تیرا مکروز ہر سکندر ہے یا زہرا یا زہرا یا زہرا یا زہرا فرش مجلس پہ اور مصلی پر ہر جواں کہہ رہا ہے رو رو کر ہم رہے نہ رہے مگر بی بی تا قیامت رہے غمِ سرور یا زہرا یا زہرا یا زہرا یا زہرا ان شہیدوں کا یہ مقدر ہے صاحبہ ان کا تیری چادر ہے ان کے سینوں پہ میری بی بی داغ ماتم نشان ہے در ہے یا زہرا یا زہرا یا زہرا یا زہرا مجلس غم میں اشک برسانے آ سکے یا نہیں خدا جانے کیا بھروسہ ہماری سانسوں کا اب کہاں ہم کہاں عزا کھانے یا زہرا یا زہرا یا زہرا یا زہرا الفاتحہ
السلام عليك يا رسول الله السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله السلام عليك يا زين العابدين السلام عليك يا محمد الباقر السلام عليك يا جعفر الصادق السلام عليك يا موسى الكاظم السلام عليك يا علي الرضا السلام عليك يا محمد التقي السلام عليك يا علي النقي السلام عليك يا حسن العسكري السلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والزمان سيدي الأمان 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 السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان السلام عليك يا إمامنا وإمام الإنس والجان عجل الله لك ما وعدك من النصر وظهور الأمر ورحمة الله وبركاته اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد